What's going on, Soul Tribe? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to my channel, Alchemist. Justin here, and are you ready to work with them energies this week? We got a pretty jam-packed week. Got a lot of stuff going on here. I made a bit of a snafu and did not mention Venus entering into Cancer, so we're going to talk about the wonderfulness of that, because that is a dope energy. And then we have the Mercury Sun Kazemi that's going to be happening. Venus is actually going to be happening as soon, shortly after Venus enters into Cancer. You know, she's feeling good, and then Saturn. So we're going to talk about that square with Saturn. And then lastly, Mars is going to be moving into Libra, which is going to make a little trickiness with the cardinal signs. It's going to be a mixed bag for cardinal placements. But we're going to get into all that here in a moment. But if you're new here, again, my name is Justin. And one of the things that I do in this channel is talk about the Celestial News Weekly, the chit chat that goes on up in the heavens between the sun and the other classical planets. And I'm going to be covering the week of, we're going to go and switch over here, covering the week of technically July 31st through August 6th, 2025. But I'm going to go ahead and sneak in July 30th as well. But yeah, as you see here, we got all the planets moving in order. So fun, I haven't even touched Saturn yet. Saturn's just hanging out. But starting actually today on a Mercury day, depending on when you're watching this, at about 8:58 p.m., Venus is going to enter into Cancer. And here we got the lovely Venus here chilling at 0 degrees of Cancer. Now, whenever you have a celestial body entering into a new sign, you want to see what house that's activating for you. Where do you have Cancer? Because now, let's talk about the good stuff first. Now, at least when we're talking by whole sign, Venus is co-present with Big Papa. So the benefics are, this is a really great energy for Cancer, you know, for Cancer placements and even for the water placements. You were talking about Pisces and Scorpio, even Virgo and Taurus. You know, and this could be a really nice time with both the benefics being there. So if you have a lot of placements there, see how these are how these are being activated for you. Especially if Cancer is, let's say, the sign of the year for you, or if Venus is your time lord for the year. You want to see how Venus is going to be aspecting this, because they're going to be, again, forming new conversations, and the spheres are going to be relating to each other a bit differently. So where we do have this lovely little, beneficial pocket here, because Venus in Cancer, Cancer is they're ruled by the moon. They're the cardinal water sign and receptive or yin in nature. And Cancer, I find, is a real sensitive sign. Is able to tune into the fluctuations of the emotions, and not just of themselves, but of others around them. They're able to sense that ebb and flow. And I find here this could be a great time with Venus being able to really relate to others on a real instinctual level, on a real kind of deep feeling level, to understand maybe what people may be moving through in this time. I would imagine Venus in Cancer really expresses more compassion, more empathy. And there's I think a really strong, Cancer gets that real kind of strong mothering quality here. And the nature of Venus is to provide that nourishing for people who are receptive to that. So that's something too there, I think, to kind of pay attention to, because where Venus is having this nice kind of conversation with Jupiter, and this could bring a lot of just hopefully general good feelings into the relationships with both the benefics there. There's still that pressure that's coming on from Saturn, and we'll be talking about that exact aspect in the following slide. But throughout this time period, while Venus is going to be traversing through Cancer, they're going to have that pressure of Saturn kind of bearing down on Venus a little bit. When it was in Gemini, things were a bit easier to, at least there was an opportunity to kind of smooth things over here. But now we're really going to have to maybe even work at finding the balance here. But the kind of nice thing, though, in which we'll talk about that. Actually, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here. And actually, this is really nice, too, because when Venus is entering, the moon and Venus are in mutual reception. So that's a nice little entry point there. But overall, that's why I put this as a yellow kind of energy, more kind of a mixed bag, because it's just like, yeah, Venus is co-present with Jupiter, and that's great. But having that overcoming square from Saturn, who's not just retrograde, but in a sign of its fall, it's going to be, the beneficence is going to come with some work. But we do get a little bit of goodness there before we get into the work. Because on a Jupiter day, the 31st, so now we're getting into the week. The Jupiter day, the 31st of July, we have the Mercury retrograde is formed that Kazemi with the sun, and that's going to be happening at exactly 9 degrees of Leo. And the Kazemi is basically when any kind of celestial body is in that conjunction with the sun. Mercury was under the beams for a while. It's about halfway through the retrograde cycle now. And it was under the beams of the sun for a while, so maybe this retrograde, whatever themes that were coming up in the Leo portions of your chart, this could be now where maybe you're starting to get some clarity around this Kazemi. In the conjunction, let's talk about that, because as you see here, you got the sun and Mercury all snuggled up in the sun's home. But the conjunction is just a fusion of energies. So we take the mercurial, the kind of like communication, intelligence, writing, and all those sort of mercurial aspects, and then fuse them with the energy of the sun, the higher light of the mind. This could be a really great time to just be in tune with that kind of higher part of yourself, to be able to, and this could be expressed, I think, in a number of ways. This could become where you just have some kind of clarity, really kind of see whatever challenge that you're facing, maybe especially in this Leo house, just more clearly. And you want to pay attention too, if you have any planets or points around this 9 degrees of Leo, this may be working with you more personally. I'll give you a personal example while we're talking about that, because this is actually working real nicely with me. I have Mercury at about 7 degrees 16 minutes of Leo roughly, and then I have my ascendants at about 12:27 of Leo. So this is actually working, real close to conjuncting, my Mercury placement and my ascendant. And there's just been a lot of mental energy. This is activating my first house, and I've been utilizing this time, like, it's really been kind of like a revitalization, or kind of a revision, not like a huge revision, but like I've really been feeling lately that the things that I've been beginning over this, even though just over this last, since I've started my birthday season, which I'm almost a month in, but there's just been this. Because when I started the retrograde, I will say it was a bit, because it retrograded right on my Jupiter placement, and it was a bit rocky at first, but now I really kind of personally feel like I'm getting in the groove of this. I'm able to manage my mental energy better, and yeah, just been finding effective ways of just like fueling the things that I want to accomplish and things like that. So that's kind of one way how that can kind of like, give you in this sense of, again, mental clarity, especially when the mind has been busy, and when you're able to take the powers of Mercury and focus it, with that fixed fire, it can really, I think Mercury can really help crank out some things. So that could be maybe just one way how this is coming up for you. But really, this is a great time, I think, for just of clarity, really kind of a little bit of a break, a small little pause between the retrograde cycle, understanding why we're even going through this in the first place, or, if there's been any kind of roadblocks, having that sort of like aha moment and being able to like, okay, this is what I've been needing to do. So overall, I like this Mercury conjunction here. And now, this is going to be, it'll still be a little bit before Mercury, you'll be able to see Mercury, but now this will be, once Mercury gets from under the beams of the sun and does that heliacal rising, we'll be even to be able to see Mercury rising, depending on how early you'll get up. So that's going to be something to look forward here soon. But let's go ahead and get into the next one. A little bit of a mixed bag here again, because now we're getting to Venus Day, the 1st of August. We have that square that's happening with Venus and Saturn, and it's happening at 1 degree and 37 minutes, Venus in Cancer and Saturn retrograde in Aries. So like I was saying, this is a tough one, where Venus is normally, the lesser benefic, always bringing the pleasurable things, making things more enjoyable, bringing that concord. There may be a bit of more of a challenge here trying to get that harmony, because now Saturn, the weight of Saturn, since Saturn's in the superior position of this square, those Saturnian themes are really weighing down on Venus. So this could be where, let's say, for example, what I was going to talk about with Venus, I think that one thing with Cancer, I think what could happen is that you could be maybe noticing that other people are maybe feeling the pressures of whatever, however Saturn or whatever challenges may be coming up in their life, and there may be this wanting to help. But the thing is, if people aren't willing to receive that, then we're just kind of forcing that on them, even if we know that is going to be for their best intention. This is something where I would just kind of just focus on those who are willing to receive. And it's not that we're abandoning those who aren't, but it's just we're giving them the space to figure that out. Maybe just letting them know, like, where it's like, hey, I've noticed that I've been feeling something's been off about you. Is there anything you want me to do? And whether that be like maybe just having a conversation, or again, maybe they're just like, I just need some space. I just need to be left alone. And then just Venus having that and this may be something where that might hurt, where you don't want to see someone under that pressure, but we have to respect their wishes and how they want to grow through this journey. So that may be just one way that this Venus square may be coming up there. But who knows? Where this may be a challenge, that kind of conversation and having that ability of that space to be vulnerable when you're ready can strengthen a relationship, because just knowing that someone's there sometime can just provide someone a bit of relief. Just that space of, because now they're not thinking like, oh, I'm in my stuff and I'm affecting those around me as well. Now it could just be where, because I find with Venus and Cancer, if you just understand what's coming, what's moving through you at that time, the emotions where they are constantly churning in Cancer, they are manageable. It's not Cancer. Cancer's just not just going around just dysregulated all the time. That's not the purpose of Cancerian energy. But it is a challenge, because otherwise Cancer can be reactive. And I think especially too under this kind of pressure, the heat of kind of almost like a pressure cooker of this Saturn and Aries, there could be this kind of reactive force there, and then things just get all that the benefic pocket just being not wasted, but just being worked a lot harder than it needs to. So I think that this is like a delicate kind of way that we're sort of feeling out this transition here, kind of going through these whatever topics or whatever situations or challenges that you may be going through. So that would just be something that I would just pay attention to as we're getting into that kind of square, as that square aspects reaches that intensity. Because keep in mind too, because after this, the next one or conversation that Venus will have is with Jupiter. And so where there may have been some tension at first, we may have needed to part ways for a minute, give each other space, we can always come back to. Jupiter and Venus are about unions and bringing people together and things. So, we just need patience as we're kind of processing this stuff. And then lastly, we get into on a Mercury day, the 6th of August, Mars is going to be entering into Libra. And this is going to be happening at about 4:24 p.m. And again, that's Pacific time. Now, we got Mars here chilling in Libra, which normally this is a tricky one for Mars, because they're ruled by Venus, and they are the cardinal air sign. They're active or yang in nature. And normally, Venus or Libra is, you're weighing. The beautiful thing about Libra is that they have this being able to, we're the initiators of thought. Libra has that tact to be able to, okay, if I go to approach things this way, this is going to get this reaction. Or if I do this way, this way. It's a calculated, but it's a tactful type of energy with Libra. They bring that sense of the real balancing aspect of Venus is really highlighted in Libra. To be able to hold that kind of complementary space for things, those opposing views and stuff. But this is where Mars actually finds itself in its detriment, because it's opposite its home sign of Aries. And so when you find a celestial body in its detriment, it's just that it's in foreign territory, being furthest away from home. And it's the nature of Mars may be a bit more uncomfortable than Libra, because Mars is more of a do first and think about it later. So that would be something where you want to be mindful with this Mars placement, because it is starting to, that opposition with Saturn is starting to build up now, because now they're getting ready to have a conversation, and they're going to be under this tension at least for the first 15 degrees of at least till about September. Early September is when Saturn will retrograde back into Pisces, and that'll kind of lighten up that oppositional force by whole sign. But until then, Mars is in a kind of a tricky space too, just like with Venus, because it's opposing Saturn. But the nice thing is that it is, there's at least reception with Venus. Now that Venus is now we're kind of, as you see here, Venus is kind of moving along in Cancer. So at least Jupiter and Venus are overcoming Mars, kind of tempering a bit of maybe that reactive energy that Mars maybe because, where Venus, or again, where we're with Libra, they're wanting to bring people together, they're wanting to form unions and such. But with Mars, it may form these unions through debate, through arguments, through that sort of like love-hate relationship. You got that, use that sort of vibe, and it obviously can be a little bit more extreme with Mars. But I think this is one where with Mars and Libra, think before you act. Like weigh your options, because I think, of course, with everywhere Mars is at, there's going to be consequences. But I think especially with Mars in Libra, that's this, like when Mars is going through the cardinal signs, where it finds its fall in Cancer, its detriment in Libra. The dangers of Mars is just doing things and things happening quickly and getting out of hand too fast and getting out of control. Then you're not able to adjust it quick enough, for the damage to be, for the damage control. So that would just be one thing that I would pay attention to. But I find where if Mars is able to come from a balanced place here, Mars and Libra can get a lot done. It can be the kind of forward force. Maybe it can be this Mars and Libra constructively could be where if you've been feeling that tension, maybe been feeling like your relationships, for example, have been kind of folding under the pressures of Saturn. Maybe that Mars in Libra could be that force where it's like we're not bullying or necessarily being super aggressive with helping someone get out of a funk, but it could be where you apply a bit more tough love, where it's just like, hey, I know you're going through this thing, but you can't ignore it. And I'm here to help you, but we have to tackle this thing. That's sort of just like it's like, I know you don't want to, but get up. Get up and let's go there. So it's an interesting mix when you think about those kind of martial influences in there. And I would just be mindful too. There is a calculated sort of I don't want to say conniving, but kind of with Mars. I think that it can take that Libra energy and maybe be a bit manipulative. So that would just be another sort of thing that I'd just be aware of with just the Mars and Libra energy again in general. But again, we're in an interesting kind of energies right now. And like I said, if you have cardinal placements, the cardinal placements are going to be, we're under a lot of heavy cardinal influence, having 4 planets now in cardinal signs. So be thinking about how we're initiating, what is your relationships, especially with like Aries, Cancer, Libra. What are your relationships with those planets? How that's activating in your chart, so that you just get a better idea of how to move forward. And if you happen to know people, some of the charts of the people around you, that can give you, even just like the sun sign, that can at least give you an idea of like how they may be relating to it. So it's like, where it's like, oh, this may be a pretty decent time for like my Pisces friends, or, with that Cancer there, or, this may be a trickier time for like my Capricorn friends or my Cancer friends, or, whatever, maybe a mixed bag for the Cancer friends, again, with them having the benefics there. But yeah, just kind of pay attention to that and see how you notice those themes come up. It could be a lot of useful information there for you, but that's basically all I got there for you this week. Yeah, we could definitely kind of a mixed bag there, and we're going to be getting into some tenser ones as we get into next week. It's like, it's like we have like extremes right now. We got the malefics having this opposition that's building up, but we also have the benefics having this conjunction that's building up. So basically it's going to be this, how I would kind of describe this feeling is, whatever bad things or challenges that happen, that we know, that whatever ideal or maybe unideal scenarios come up, how we respond from that and where we initiate from that going forward is going to be key. Because another thing I wanted to mention, but one last thing, thinking about Venus and Cancer, In the tarot, Venus in Cancer, that's the Two of Cups. And so that's coming from a place of love, a place of union, this need to band together, and be into to have those people in your have a good solid just like partnerships and teams, and to be able to find those people that you can weather this storm with together. So that's something I think we need to really kind of do too, just finding those partners that are helping us to move forward. So just some things to tune into there. And that's something too, where if you want to see how this is activating more personally in your chart, down in the description box there is a link to book a consultation with me. And if you have any questions about the services that I provide, then my email's down there as well, so definitely feel free to reach out. But also down in the comment section, let us know how you've been working with these energies, how this stuff has been coming up for you, if you have any points that have been activated. Because you know what, interestingly enough, for again, little personal thing for me, even though the malefics are in a weird space, and that's kind of not so great for my sun placement, which I have in Cancer. This is actually really great for the rest of my Leo placements, though. A lot of, the little bit of work, of course. But, Mars is sextiling like all my Leo placements. And then Saturn's been trining all of my Leo placements. And even Mars is trining my moon, and Saturn's sextiling my moon. So it's like again, mixed bag. So, it's good to see how you can relate to that. And that could even kind of help you too, to see if you notice like other people are kind of off there. It's like, how come I may not? How come I'm not experiencing like this? Or should I be experiencing like this? And it's like, oh, that may be, but that's why. So just a little extra insider there for you. And then, yeah, I have a link for if you want to see what's coming up and get a feel for the energies throughout the week when there's not any sort of like active transit going on. I have a separate playlist for the lunar shenanigans, because the moon is always doing something. So if you want to get a feel for those energies, the link for the playlist is down there as well. And I also have this series that I do of different planetary places, or different celestial bodies in different signs in different houses. So that's also available for you. There's playlists for all of the placements. If you have any requests, feel free to send out a comment, comment in the comment section. I'll be sure to do your placement next. So, but that's all I got for you. So until next time, stay mindful out there. Keep raising that vibration through the roof. And I will catch you on the next one, Mercury Day.